a show going. There's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, but that all said, I do want to go ahead and say hi to everybody who's in the chat who was waiting patiently for us all for the much longer time than I thought it was going to be, and also say today's topic, we're going to be talking about Magic the Gathering Foundations. But first, before we get into that, I need to introduce my co-hosts, and they are Biminem.
Hey.
And that other guy at the other end of the table.
I'm not here.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah, that's fair. Unfortunately, we are having a couple of mic issues in terms of volume, so there's nothing I can do on my end. All mics are maxed out everywhere, and it's still not enough. I don't know what's going on. We will figure it out later as time goes on. That said, like I said, I want to go ahead and talk about Foundations, the new set that is out, and apparently for Biminem, this was like news. Like he's finding out like 10 seconds ago news.
Would it be?
Yeah. And then when did you find out about this, Gale?
I think it was a while ago, actually. I think it was when they first made the announcement.
Which was like a month ago, I want to say, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody in my circle of like my play group, they were all talking about it, and they were confused on what it was. So
it's weird. I haven't seen anything that is confusing about how this set operates, but
to be fair, these people haven't played when core sets were a thing, so they don't know what it means to be a core set.
That's entirely fair. Maybe we should start there. We'll talk about core sets first, kind of how the game was shaped around core sets, and then we'll get into how that relates to Foundations, because there is a lot about Foundations that is wrapped up in the identity of core sets.
There's actually been basically no chatter at our LGS about this. Like, no one's talking about this. I wonder if people even know about it.
Yeah.
Our LGS is almost all Commander, and that's why. Like, there's no way to grab the people at our LGS and be like, hey, let's play 60 card formats. Like, it just doesn't really happen that much, which sucks. But we are trying. Yeah. So for those who don't know, a core set is kind of sort of like the base set from Hearthstone, if you've ever played Hearthstone. It's supposed to be the bread and butter cards that are generally more basic. This is where your like 2/2 flyers, your 1 mana dorks, your shocks, your basic generic draw, your Wrath of God, like big haymaker spells. This is where the basic versions of those cards usually sit and roost almost all the time. At least that's what it's supposed to be. So in days past, if you had a Ravnica set, you had a Llanowar Elf to play with the Ravnica set, and Ravnica's where you got the Birds of Paradise, because it gave you the colors for all the guilds. The reason you didn't have to have a Llanowar Elves in that set is the Llanowar Elves would have been printed in the core set. The difference between a core set and the standard sets is the standard sets always had to have some story, some consistent theme, anything. Whereas the core sets always got to be purely mechanical, and we were supposed to get one every year. And unlike the regular Magic the Gathering set, a core set typically was like 60 to 65% reprints. That's the way they worked in recent years. The original core sets were basically all reprints. It was just whatever selection of cards from Magic's past Wizards decided needed to be in the standard rotation, which did a lot of good. It let them have a product that came out and supported players without there having to be as much card design equity spent. Like, there's only so many times you can print the same keywords on a thing before it starts to feel redundant, unless, of course, you have a set that is designed to just have these basic cards in them. As a result, these sets ended up being lower power than other sets usually, but that also tended to be a good thing too, because it meant they had a really, really nice limited environment. Like, I remember enjoying Ravnica Limited and Time Spiral Limited, but playing Draft in a core set always feels like ridiculously cohesive and really, really fun. So they generally were a good thing overall for the game's health, and Wizards brought them back after several years of hiatusing them and then got rid of them again. And I think it's because the newer versions of core sets did not operate the same way the old versions did. Instead, they were just closer to how the Horizons sets are built, where it's just, hey, let's put a whole bunch of mechanically unique cards in this one set with a few reprints and treat it like any other set from a design standpoint. But that always feels like just wasting a lot of design space that could have been spent in an actual, like, setting set. Whereas the core sets is just purely mechanics. But that's just my thoughts on them. Gale, you've played with core sets as well in Limited and in Standard. So what are your thoughts about them and their legacy?
Core sets were always one of my favorite sets. Not because of how they play, but just because, like, I didn't have to think if a card was legal. So when I started playing back in Theros, for example, Core 2013, that was a fun set.
It was.
Like, when I first started playing, I was able to, like, my friends handed me a bunch of cards and say, hey, these are the cards that are legal. These are the cards that you're working with. You don't have to think about anything else right now. It gave me an entry point into becoming more of an entrenched Magic the Gathering player, and that's kind of why I have fond memories of it.
That's kind of where I was too with them as well. Like when I started, I knew that Onslaught and Mirrodin were where I was going to get my elf cards, but when those rotated out, the core set always had my, like, here's your 2/3 for 2 elf, here's your Llanowar elf, here's, just a bunch of generic things that are decent for elves, goblins, birds, whatever tribe you want to grab, the core set probably had something for you.
Exactly. And
God, Theros block with Devotion was so much fun in Standard.
it was, but I think because when I played Mono Green Devotion, so I was playing a lot of the Elvish Mystics and all that good stuff. So, but now, like, in the most recent ones, they put in things like, I still don't know why Omniscience is in the core set. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest fan of that card specifically being there.
I guess we probably should go over the cards that have been shown so far for this real quick before we get into, like, what Foundations is in its entirety. Let's quickly go over because there's only a few cards that have been spoiled, right? Starting with 9 Lives Familiar, this is a new one that's specific to this set, and it feels busted as hell in any, like, sacrifice-oriented deck. Comes in with 8 revival counters on it if you cast it, and whenever it dies, it just removes a revival counter and revives itself. Which is...
Okay, yep.
Yeah, at end step, which is... but it's the beginning of the next end step, not your next end step. So, like, in a one-on-one game, this card is, okay, it's pretty decent. In a Commander game, this card is absolutely nutso bonkers. Because that's 4 end steps you have available every turn cycle. But this is built for one-on-one play, is what this set is supposed to be. I hope. That's what Wizards is communicating in all of the advertising, is this is meant for 60-card players. So cards that are built and scaled just for the 60-card format is what I'm expecting. And that's basically what this is. Then we've got Anthem of Champions, which is another really neat one. It's a new to Foundations card. And it's just Selesnya. Just green-white, gives all creatures you control 1/1. That's the best Anthem rate of return ever printed. It's the, what's the one from Lord of the Rings that you like a lot, Biminem, that does the same thing here?
Flowering of the White Tree?
Yeah, it's Flowering of the White Tree for Selesnya, without the extra added ward, but that's fine, because these are usually meant to be...
legendary and is double white pip, so it's...
It's a bit harder to cast. Yeah, Anthem of Champions is really, really good. And it does something that we're supposed to get with dual-colored cards anyway, and that's some benefit for playing the extra colors. Like, Glorious Anthem sets the standard of creatures get 1/1 for 3 mana. Flowering of the White Tree power creeps to 2 mana, but puts it at double white pip, so it's harder to cast. Anthem of Champions gives you a benefit and gives you a signpost. That's the other thing this set should have a lot of, is a lot of signpost cards. For those who don't know, those are the cards that are built so that when you're playing the deck in a limited environment, this is the thing that tells you what you're supposed to draft. So obviously, Selesnya is going to have a tokens theme, or any kind of go wide theme, because that's what this is doing. Day of Judgment's getting a reprint in here. It's the lower power Wrath of God, because it doesn't stop regeneration, because they decided not to have regeneration as a evergreen keyword anymore years ago for weird reasons. Omniscience does feel weird. That is a reprint that's in here, and it does feel strange. I'm not going to lie, but we're going to have Omniscience in Standard for 5 years. Everybody happy about that?
No.
I mean, if you're paying 10...
It's gonna create an environment where, like, Azorius stall is just going to become the meta. People are just gonna stall to get Omniscience out.
I mean, it's going to be no different than when they stalled to get Alrund's Epiphany out, and that's all that the Azorius and Izzet control decks of that era were doing. So it is agitating, but it is also very on theme with how those sets have been built in the past.
It just feels weird to give them this kind of attack.
It does, but we'll see how it pans out. It may be ridiculously powerful. It may not be as powerful as we think, because it's built for the Standard environment. Then
it might create the type of environment that Modern is. You either face an ungodly powerful board state later in the game, or you win fast to try to kill it ahead of time.
Yeah.
It might just mirror the ugly cutthroat competitive format that Modern is.
I mean,
and I would
Standard
hope to see this be a little bit more free flowing, a little bit more you can bring jank and it still work.
No, that's Standard has never been that.
It was that in the past.
No,
it wasn't.
During Theros?
No,
nope,
it wasn't. So the thing is, depending
Maybe
on
what I'm thinking of wasn't jank back then, but would be jank today.
So what it ends up being is that we all find something that resonates with us in terms of like 60 card formats, and then what tends to happen is it feels sometimes like we've found this really cool brew, and then you look on the internet and find that a bunch of people are playing similar brews with differing levels of success. Like, for me, I threw Affinity together to get into Modern, not by looking at a list, but by going off of my memory of when I was a kid. And then I saw that there were Affinity lists that were topping. I wasn't putting together jank. I was accidentally stumbling into one of the top decks in the format. Well, top being like tier 3, but tier 3 in Modern is still representative of the format. So, Standard, if you are not playing online, and if you are not traveling to tournaments, and if you are only dealing with the people in your local area, and those people also don't play online and don't travel for tournaments, it can feel very Brewer's Paradise-y, very free-flowing, but that doesn't mean that's what the state of the game actually is. That's just the state of your immediate play group.
I don't ever go to, like, RCQs or any of those.
Yeah, it's... Standard so when I was a kid, I played Jund in Standard, like when Jund was new in Shards of Alara, and I fell into it because I really liked cards like Broodmate Dragon and Sprouting Threnax, and I really liked the Cascade mechanic. And then I found out later on that Jund was considered the strongest deck in the format because it literally could value out every other deck. It's how the fucking phrase Jund them out came to be in the first place, because Jund could just go, yeah, I'm just gonna do Bloodbraid Elf into Blightning, and I have a board state, and you've lost like everything. And that's just a standard thing that Jund can do. It felt free-flowing to me as a kid, but the reality is I had just kind of stumbled onto the meta deck, which everybody ended up figuring out like a week afterwards anyway. That said, the way that Wizards designs these formats is a loose way of saying it, But the way that Standard is built, it's not supposed to be a free-flowing Brewer's Paradise format. It is supposed to be a turn 6 format. It's supposed to be that Modern is the turn 4 format, Pioneer is the turn 5 format, and then Standard is turn 6. And all that really means is you should have established your strategy to win the game, stabilized yourself away from aggro, or flat out won by the time turn 6 comes around. And all the cards in the set are kind of scaled around that. It's one of the reasons why Standard for, I want to say like 6 years, hasn't had a 1-mana mana dork. Because 1-mana mana dorks allowed for much faster gameplay, so it tended to create this faster environment where the turn 6 thing didn't get to happen. Which is why I have Llanowar Elves on the screen, because we get Llanowar Elves in Standard again, which feels really strange after so many years of being stuck with 2-mana mana dorks in Standard.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying with that. If it was going to be like a turn 4 format, which is what players end up pointing towards, even if the format is meant to be like a turn 6, you're going to get players who are used to turn 4 and going to try to make it a turn 4. If it's turn 6, then I could see that being, still viable to where you could play the deck that you want to play as long as it's well oiled, kind of like Pioneer.
Yeah.
Question for you guys: depending what ramp cards get printed in Standard, because y'all probably have a good idea for what ramp cards will get printed in Standard. How quick could a Simic deck ramp out Omniscience?
Usually you're not gonna try to ramp it out. You're gonna try to put it into the battlefield unfairly.
Like a cheat out type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not like Omniscience is not a card that you're trying to ever play fairly.
That way it can't
Like-
get countered.
Like right now, the way that you would play Omniscience in Standard early and unfairly is with Vannifar. You would have Vannifar out, you would play Omniscience down, and then you would blink it with another spell. That would give you like a turn 5 Omniscience, and then you're off to the races.
Game of combat on your turn, choose one, cloak a card from hand, put a 1/1 on each colorless creature control. Okay. And then just blink the permanent while it's face down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way, like, just off the top of my head. I know there's probably some other more efficient way, but like off the top of my dome, that's what I would do in Standard if I wanted to make a very busted play with Omniscience and have it come down super early. But
you could turn 3 in Omniscience.
Yep. There's a lot of ways you could cheat out an Omniscience extremely early.
Yeah.
Yeah, JDX says, me and my play group just deny and reject Wizards of the Coast regulations and stupid decisions and play how we want. I mean, it's a card game. You play how you want, but there are certain things that have to also be understood. If you want to play in a tournament, then those rules and regulations now suddenly have merit and meaning again.
Also, the tournament play and the community feedback within the realms where people actually play by how Wizards says is what directly impacts the product to come in the future.
Yep. So it's one of those things where, like, you can play and distance yourself from all of the things that make the community aspects of Magic what they are. I just don't find it particularly useful. Like, there's only so many times you can bang on the door of asking everybody to play like some niche format that you and your friends have come up with before it doesn't work. It's why, like, as much as I really want to play Modern and Pioneer and Standard and Paper all the time, the decks that I carry around with me wherever I go tend to be Commander decks. Because when I sit down at a random store somewhere in the United States, I know that there's going to be Commander players at that store.
Yeah.
JDX says, my question is, does anyone actually still care about Standard outside of elitist douchebag pros who only play because of money and to be in the pocket of WotC? Don't answer that. We all know already. I mean, I care about Standard, and I
just think that question is just kind of like
it's kind of just a disparaging question.
Yeah. You are answering your own question in a way that doesn't allow for discussion.
Yeah, and like, I will admit that those elitist douchebag pros do exist, and there's actually been some controversy recently around a judge call that happened at one of the Gen Con tournaments, and some of those elitist douchebag bros are coming out of the woodworks. Like, there's a whole like anti-judge sentiment coming out of Twitter right now that's weird. So I'm not going to deny that those people exist, but I am going to deny that they represent all of the people that care about this like game. The reason that I like Standard is because it does have that rotation that allows it to stay very, very fresh, while also typically having a lower price point than other formats for Magic, discounting Commander. Now, I say typically because right now that is not the case. There's two major moments in Standard's history that stick out to me for having must-play cards for certain decks that are way overpriced, and it's our current Standard where we have Sheoldred, and it was even worse when we had Fable, and there was a previous Standard when Jace the Mind Sculptor was new, who was even more ludicrously expensive and just should never have been printed the way he was. Like, that should have been a card that was available to everybody far more easily with how pushed he was. But one of the benefits of this particular set right now, as far as I can tell, is it is aimed very, very hard at getting new players into play Standard. And they're doing this not just by saying, here's some new product with some reprints and some important cards in it, but specifically, the products that they're putting out for this set are all intended to bring new players in. So first thing is we're getting a Jumpstart set with it. They discontinued Jumpstart boosters originally, and I'm interested to see what Jumpstart looks like within this kind of core SETI area, because that kind of is what Jumpstart felt like it was emulating in the first place, right? It was just a core set with a lot more cohesion between, say, different typals. So I like that idea. I think it's going to be far more interesting than whatever the hell they were trying to do with Jumpstarts in the Standard sets. But after that, we also have beginner boxes, which is, 10 themed Jumpstart packs. They give us, the same ones so you can build whatever decks you want out of those. A couple of reference cards, a how to play guide, a couple of game board playmats, and a couple of spin down life counters. That's really interesting. Like, while I would prefer having some actual standard precons for people to start with, that's an okay way to start, but that's not all they're doing. They're also giving us something called the Starter Collection, and this looks like it's filling in the role of what the Deck Builder's Toolkit should have always been. So this thing has 100 lands in it. It's got a click wheel instead of like one of the paper life wheels. So it's got one of the ones people actually like to collect. And of the basic lands that are in there, a bunch of them are full art lands. So they're actually like ones you want to put in your decks. And on top of this, there's 350 cards that are curated just for the Foundation set that are in here. And the starter collection for the Foundation set gives you play sets of all of the cards in there. Confirmed play sets of Llanowar Elves, confirmed play sets of Day of Judgment. Like, the entire point is for you to have a one-stop shop that will give you all of the staples that you need to start. And then it's also got 3 play boosters as well. If I'm being honest, while this looks like what the Deck Builder's Toolkit should have always been, I think this is probably Wizards trying to directly compete with Pokemon, because the Trainer Toolkit is what the Deck Builder's Toolkit should have always been, and this feels like the Trainer's Toolkit to me.
Not just Pokemon, but we're seeing... So, games like Lorcana come out.
Yeah.
And it makes a splash for a while and had a legitimate chance of being a popular game, but people ran into the problem of it being a little too expensive a product. But the point is, there's all these near misses of new competitors coming out, and then they're gonna fine tune. They're gonna figure out what they need to do, and there's gonna be more competitors and more competitors. And pretty soon, as the world is getting back into playing card games, because it absolutely is, Wizards is gonna be like, oh, we have to be competitive. We have to be able to keep up with what the other card games are doing.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh has been doing that. Year in review box is how you described it to me in the past. The 10.
Yeah, the Megatins.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh's been doing that, which is how their revision of this core set foundation thing kind of feels. They're like, okay, we're going to keep this healthy by bringing a good set forward with reprints. And now with the Pokemon, with the deck building toolkit, or the trainer toolkit, there's always this one good, like, okay, buy this starter box and then build off of that. So Wizards is seeing, oh, hey, they're doing that and there's more competition. We've always been the number one card game. We won't be if we don't keep up.
Yeah, this looks like a very good thing for revitalizing Standard and giving people pieces at more than likely an affordable rate this time around to actually start off their stuff. The way that, so to give a quick history for the deck builders toolkits, for those who might not know, the original toolkits had some semi-randomized cards and usually only 2 of each card, and then a bunch of booster packs that were standard legal, but it wasn't one set of booster packs. It was like, here's a couple core set packs, here's a War of the Spark pack, here's a Kaladesh pack, and that made it very, very hard to actually build anything with the toolkit. You didn't
What
have
is the play set?
yeah, it didn't have play sets of anything. It didn't have any cohesion in the booster packs themselves, so you couldn't supplement the kind of play sets you had with like an extra card from anywhere else. You just got the cards, and if you already had like a starter deck, say, because they had the Planeswalker decks back then maybe you could use some of the cards from the toolkit, and that would let you kind of sort of start out. It was an instant collection, but it wasn't a very good one. This one, giving all play sets, is already just a knock out of the park for me. I'm happy when Wizards recognizes that their game has play sets in it. And the other thing, I see there's a lot of stuff about like Wizards is too late for fixing Standard. Like, no, it's a format that's been going for 26, 27 years, ever since the idea of rotation first was introduced into the game. Like, it's never too late to actually fix the format. I've also been seeing on Twitter that in terms of how the format feels to play on Arena, it apparently is in a very healthy state right now. People aren't super bummed out on how it feels to actually play Standard. Now the only problem is getting people to play Standard in paper, and that's what this looks like it's aiming to do. Because not only do you get all of the play sets of things that you need to begin with, but you're also getting 3 booster packs on top of that, which is a better way to supplement a starting collection because it's all themed in the same area. One of the big things about Magic is that all sets are kind of themed within themselves. It's very hard to like go, oh, I want to supplement my elf deck by buying a bunch of booster packs that don't have elf cards in them because that plane doesn't have elves. This kind of circumvents all those problems.
And like, I think when we get to this is a long shot, but hear me out. What I want them to do is to them to get to a point where they can put Shocklands in the foundation set. Because having to wait until we go back to Ravnica every time we want Shocklands, it's kind of annoying.
And the last time we went back to Ravnica, we didn't get Shocklands.
You get Shocklands.
Nope. We had Surveillance, which are also good, but they're not Shocklands. Now,
So,
I definitely would like that. If not Shocklands, maybe Foundation should have Painlands.
I think that, yeah, I agree on Painlands. I think that most of those like generically good cards being tied to a specific plane is really annoying, especially when you go to said plane and then you don't reprint those generic staples.
Yeah. Also, I see game's not for you because Sheoldred is still in. Well, the good news is 10% of the meta is made up of Gruul aggro right now, which literally can't have Sheoldred. 4% of the meta is mono red aggro. Another 4% of the meta is Azorius control. Jeskai aggro makes up another 3% of the meta. Jeskai control makes up another 3% of the meta. If you don't want to play Sheoldred, I have good news for you. There's a lot of decks that don't play Sheoldred in Standard right now. That said, the main thing with Foundations that the one thing I think it's missing, though, I'm happy that we have this beginner's box. I'm happy we have a good set for people to start with. And the Jumpstart packs, depending on how they're formatted, may be a very good way to start people onboarded into the game. But I really think this needs precons. Like actual, honest-to-God, standard precons that, unlike the standard precons we've gotten before, will actually last for 3 years. Or not 3 years, will actually last for 5 years. Because the problem with standard precons we've gotten in the past have been, hey, here's this deck. Half of it rotates in 6 months. Enjoy. Like, that's not a good thing. That's never been a good thing about the way that those have been built. Foundations is actually a really good chance for them to make a precon product that will serve Standard the way that it should have served Standard from the beginning. Whether or not we're going to see that, it's another story all entirely. But as far as the lands go, I do think I would love Shocklands in here. Shocklands would sell the product.
Yes,
Like,
it would.
it would definitely sell really well with Shocks. Everybody does want to go for Shocks, and Painlands just had like a buku resurgence of reprints.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Commander product has been featuring Painlands, which again, I'm happy with. I like when that happens, but if
I wish
found
I don't know why the Commander precons don't come with them often.
they're starting to come with them more often now, though.
Yeah.
Like the recent precons we got for Bloomburrow had stacked mana bases. I'm not even gonna lie.
They had all. I was actually kind of surprised when I opened it and saw that they had all of them.
Yeah, like they had Painlands, they had Odyssey filters, they had good filters, they had some fast lands, which not great for Commander, but it's good to put more of that paper in the world so that people have those cards right now. So yeah, I'm happy with the mana bases that we're getting now. Maybe we should not have jank mana bases only as the only things available in Standard. But we'll see what we've only seen. Like what, 5 cards? We've only seen 5 cards from Foundations. So like this entire conversation is mostly a smoke and mirrors conversation. But I guess
Absolutely.
what's up?
I said absolutely.
But there is. I can paint an ideal scenario, right? This is never gonna happen. But do you remember how the Pioneer decks, the recent ones, the precons, all had 1 shock land each?
Yes.
All right. So I liked that. I liked that a lot. It gave you a reason to get the deck outside of the cards that were in it for Pioneer because everybody chases shocklands, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine Wizards of the Coast puts on their thinking caps and realizes that Foundations is going to be a set that's going to be out for a long time. And so, for year 1 of Foundations, after about, say 3 months in the wild, they give us 5 precons. 5 ally precons or 5 enemy color precons of whatever stuff that's in the actual set. Like, they give us a Selesnya tokens deck, give us like a Golgari Elves deck, I don't know. Whatever themes are going to ultimately be in this set, give us some of those, and have those precons feature playsets of Painlands, playsets of whatever tapped land they want to use in the format, and 1 or 2 shocklands. You could get away with just 1, but make the price like $30, like the standard precons were the last time around. make them $30 precons with full play sets of everything except the mana base, because I know that Wizards wants to have people chase the mana bases. Unfortunately. So I do have to think of this within the context of like what Wizards would actually do. But if they did that, I think that would help a ton, because then getting into the three of us getting quote into standard would be as simple as spending $90 and getting 3 decks to start out with and just playing with those. And there's a lot of fun to be had with just cracking open some 60-card decks in a limited environment and playing those on their own. Not counting what can happen with them once you upgrade them with, good mana bases and on-curve creatures.
Like what happened with the Pioneer precons, and Pioneer had a really big boom at first.
Yeah, like Pioneer, the first set of precons were pretty okay. And then the second set of precons, they gave us the shock lands on top of the other stuff that was in them. And each of those Pioneer precons morphed into some deck that was important in the current metagame. The Gruul aggro deck morphed into the Eska's Chariot vehicle deck very smoothly. The Dimir deck ended up morphing into a Shieldred control deck really, really smoothly. The Humans deck, all you had to do was get rid of all the black cards, and it suddenly became a good mono-white aggro deck, which...
The funniest revelation that we made about mine.
Yeah, and that was the revelation that was made by the entire Magic community, was what is this deck doing being an Orzhov deck? This is just a Humans deck. Just make it white, it's fine. And then the Izzet Phoenix deck was the only miss, I think, out of those 3, like actual miss, but only because the iteration was banned and it only had 2 of the card that were necessary to make the deck work. That's the other thing. If they do the precons again, I really, really don't think they should skimp on those top-end cards that are necessary to make the decks work. Like, it's fine for white weenies to run with 2 Adelines, but it's not fine for Izzet Phoenix to run with 2 Phoenixes.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that.
That was one of the most baffling decisions. Like, it made 0 sense. And Phoenix wasn't an expensive card either, so it's not like they were incentivizing people to buy 2 of the Izzet precon back-to-back just to get a playset of Phoenixes. People were just spending a couple dollars to get their extra Phoenixes. That's all they ever needed to do. So,
and that's all it was. It was them trying to push you to buy the upgrade product to make this starter deck better, but they didn't really think about what the outcome was going to be. So it just ended up people, like you said, they're like, oh, I need a couple more Phoenixes. All right, Phoenix is like not even $2. Okay, I'll get a couple Phoenixes.
yeah.
I think that what they really should have done, because I don't know, they already cannot acknowledge the secondary market for legal reasons. So they can't really sell the cards individually. So why not just put the cards in them, raise the price a little bit more if that's what they need. I don't agree with them raising the price, but like if you need like put out an actual deck instead of like this hodgepodge of trash cards.
They can't acknowledge the secondary market, but remember, every secret lair magically had 3 cards, each under $5 each, and 1 card over $30 in the secondary market.
We don't talk about that. We don't look. You're trying to make too much sense. We got to take him out back.
Yeah, so the thing with the secondary market thing is Wizards can technically acknowledge it. There's certain limitations they have to work within those so that they don't end up stumbling into oops, it's legal gambling. Like that's the main thing they have to avoid. But they are allowed to talk about the secondary market. Like Mark Rosewater did it recently in one of the worst ways he could have described the reason for not having precons for Modern Horizons 3 when he said, "Oh, we would have to make them too expensive." Well,
yeah, that was the dumbest statement.
That was the absolute horse-fuckest stupidest statement I could have heard ever.
It's like if he was
so
up on the podium and
sorry.
was like, "Sorry, I'm late. My secretary was dressed a little too hot, so I had to hit on her."
It was very dumb. It made no sense whatsoever. Like, just. But no, there are examples where they're able to say, like, talking about buying cards on eBay and talking about trade value for cards as a way to circumvent saying financial value for cards, because otherwise they make it sound like they're releasing products for investors, and that can get kind of dicey. They have to be very careful about how they go about it for, again, lots of legal reasons. So they can acknowledge it. They just have to do it within certain limitations.
But the way they do it is very stupid.
It is very, very stupid.
Because the other card games have proven how a successful method of how to acknowledge the secondary market value. Yu-Gi-Oh being the prime example.
Jassa says,
Like,
do we want to talk about the elephant in the room, value boosters? I don't think value boosters are the elephant in the room. I think that value boosters were and always will be a product that is not meant for Magic the Gathering players. 110%. It's literally the thing you're going to find in a dollar store so that a kid can get something that they like, and that is it. That is its purpose.
It is checkout line booster product. It is aunt that means well but doesn't know what to get her nephew for his birthday.
Like, I haven't seen value boosters at any LGS in the northern Georgia area. And I don't think I'm ever going to, because they are quite literally not product meant for the end user who plays Magic the Gathering on the regular.
I didn't even know they existed until you mentioned it just now.
Yep. Like, so Bloomborough got value boosters. It's the first set to have value boosters in it. But none of the shops up here have them.
LGS didn't even buy them from the wholesaler.
Yep, because they don't need to. I feel like value boosters being a conversation piece was a meme from the beginning, but people didn't recognize it as anything other than a meme. They thought, didn't we just get rid of the booster pack split that makes the product so hard to manage? What's wrong with this? I'm like, well, no, this actually isn't a wrong thing, because the problem with the booster pack split that we had before between draft boosters and good boosters. I'm sure that there was an actual name they used for them, but let's go ahead and call them what they were. They were the good boosters. The difference there is that card shops had to buy one set of boosters to support their draft community that would then never be bought by anyone else, and then they had to buy set boosters for people who actually wanted to buy boxes. And then that product had no use outside of being a box to buy. So if people didn't like the set specifically, there was no purpose to having the cards in any way, shape, or form. With value boosters, card shops don't have to actually buy those. So they get to just buy their 2 booster packs, the collector's one for people who have money and less sense, and the ones that are made for people who are playing the game, the play boosters. They serve both the set booster purpose and the original purpose of the draft boosters. The value ones, they're just at a checkout line. They'll be fine. If there is a store that buys value boosters, the correct thing to use them for is put them in a vending machine. Put them in a little, like, gotcha style vending machine where you might get a value booster pack out of it by putting in a couple quarters. That's probably the best thing you can do with them. But I don't think that they ever were the affront on the community or the elephant in the room that people made them out to be. Not really. But that's just my opinion where that's concerned. As far as the foundation stuff is concerned, though, I wonder what the likelihood of us actually getting any kind of precons are here. Because they're putting in a how to build your deck booklet in a lot of the foundation stuff, the beginner's boxes, and the starter collections. So I guess with all the playsets, that's a kind of, sort of starter deck. It's a handful of starter decks in a trench coat, maybe? We'll have to see what the actual list of cards is.
Remember those $20 commander starter decks,
Yes, I love those things.
they might do something like that, where it's like ungodly, underpowered, very watered down, but low costed, because they know if they sell big priced starter decks next to these builder kits and all that, the precons just won't sell. People are smart enough to go on MTG Goldfish and see what the value of the cards that come in it are. So they won't do the big full blown precons, but they might do the El Cheapos.
Maybe, but that would just be the Planeswalker decks again. That's what they did when they had Planeswalker decks. They were like $12 and $13 each. They had like a couple play sets of cards, but never anything that mattered. And then they had a bad Planeswalker at the front as a way to show, like, this is what the deck is built around. Nothing in the deck supports this thing.
Yeah, I'm not even convinced that they'll do any kind of a precon. That's the thing. Is like sometimes I'm like, yeah, they'll do something, but with this, they could legitimately not do any kind of starter deck, any kind of precon at all. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm not surprised. So if they were to do a precon for me, I think it would just be like the Planeswalker, like the cheapo little whatevers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna toss my chips in that they're even gonna do that. Not with a build kit in it. You don't need it.
Yeah, It depends on how full the build kits are, because like the way that Pokemon solves this, and it's actually the way that Magic used to solve this. Actually, come to think of it, Gale, do you remember when Magic product was segmented into beginner level, moderate level, and expert level?
When the products were?
Yes.
Set was that?
Here, hold on.
Because he and I both started in Theros. I don't specifically remember that.
So this is during like Mirrodin block level. A lot of the product here. Let me see if I can find it. Mirrodin starter deck. Let's see here. Here we are. Okay. So as an example, Affinity had a starter deck. And this was what the starter deck looked like. I'll put it in planning, and then I'll throw it up on the screen for everybody else to see as well. But this is what the starter deck looked like. And if you see on there, it says Magic the Gathering Expert Level to indicate that this is a starter deck that is supposed to be played by people who have an idea of how the game is supposed to be played.
Okay.
So
isn't that fish that you love?
Yeah, that's Broodstar. That's how I. So that deck right there is how I started playing Affinity, because Affinity was a starter deck. It wasn't particularly great, but it was a starter deck. And that's why I love Broodstar so much in Affinity, even in Modern to this day, because it was the poster child of that deck. Let me see here. Were there...
So your Broodstar was my Colossus of Akros.
Yeah.
Yeah? Like, that thing...
Deck.
That thing I want. Okay, so expert level was the types of decks that you would get for, say, an actual set. But if you were getting something from a core set, then you would get something like this instead. I'll put that up on the screen, and then I'll go ahead and throw that into here as well. So this is literally just the mono green Stompy deck from Core 8. And it's considered advanced level because it's built with core set cards only. And core set cards were always a little weaker, but more useful in more applications than cards from the regular standard legal sets. That's what our stuff used to look like. And these were like $10 on the shelf. These were very affordable, and they were very fun out of the box. they were not strong enough to play at a tournament. They would not hold up to the standards of a precon nowadays. But what they used to do is they would literally say, this is a deck for expert level, this is a deck for advanced level, this is an intermediate level thing, and this is a product for beginner level stuff. And they would just have that stapled on each deck. Pokemon does this too. If you look at the different types of precons that come out in Pokemon, there are 3 levels for them. There's the basic level ones that usually come out whenever a new generation is out. It's your like deck based on the starter, and it's considered a beginner level deck. Then a level 2 deck is the like dual decks, where there'll be 2 decks in the box that are meant to fight against each other. Those decks tend to be level 2 decks. And then the level 3 decks are always the league battle decks. Those are the ones that function as a full-on tournament-ready deck right out of the box. I think Magic would do really well to have a similar level system to its stuff, because that would give people a very good way to onboard into the game. Standard hasn't had this kind of smooth onboarding into itself in a very, very long time. But we used to have it.
It's like dark reaches of my memory, like ringing a bell that I can barely hear. But I remember this image. It's like seeing this image going, why do I remember this?
The one that I just put up?
Yeah, the core set ones with the heavy hitters and the bait and bludgeon.
I remember the heavy hitters one specifically. I think that somebody used it as an example in one of their videos that I was watching.
Man, apparently Walmart has like back product of some of these decks. So like the Lorwyn starter decks are $60. The Mirrodin starter decks are $60. They just have backstock of this shit still. It's insane.
I'm surprised that never went to like a liquidation thing.
The problem is that all this backstock is sealed product now, and Walmart's gotten in the business of selling things for eBay prices if they are not on their store shelves.
Right, but they only got into that in the last couple of years. I'm surprised it never went to liquidation like maybe
years ago.
Yeah, like exactly.
Yeah, I would have hoped they would have done that, but no. Yeah, Scourge had expert ones. Man, Shadowmoor had these decks too. God, I miss this era of Magic so much, because it was so easy to start playing Magic with people. Now the only way to do that is playing Commander, and it's not that I dislike Commander. I really like Commander now. But so like the heavy hitters deck, I'm looking at the list they used for it here. This is the kind of thing that you buy 2 of and cram them together. So the list itself has 17. Oh, these were 40 card decks. That's why as well. These were literally built so that you couldn't play them in as a standard deck. You bought 2 of these and you sandwiched them together. So like heavy hitters had 2 Elvish Pioneer, a Finehorn Elder, 2 Hunted Wumpus, and like 2 Giant Growths, a Naturalize. What it wanted you to do was cram 2 of these together and take all the extra cards and throw them into a sideboard. This had Spined Worm in it. That's so adorable.
Oh, the good old days.
These... I'm going to throw this into the planning channel. This is the wiki page for all of these decks. Just, they look so quaint. And I would love to take 2 of these and cram them together and just start out playing standard with something like this. It's obviously severely power crept these days, but like the Sky Slam deck had a single copy of Mana Leak, which is like literally the premier counterspell from that era. You just get 2 of those and you supplement it with the 4 copies of Windrake that are in there, a bunch of copies of Thieving Magpie for a draw engine. Like, there's some nice stuff here.
You're halfway to making a magic goat format.
Basically, just with these fucking recons. But if you look at the goblin, there was a goblin deck with like a shit ton of play sets for some weird reason. 4 raging goblins, the 1/1 haster dudes, and then like a single goblin king. You just cram a couple of those together, and that's just a very dangerous deck for that era. Man, I miss this. I miss this stuff so desperately much, and I want Foundations to be this. I think that's one of the reasons I'm excited about Foundations, is that Foundations feels like it's trying to return a little bit to this era of Magic. I don't.
I'm excited about the prospect of what it could do. You know.
I'm holding up, like, I'm just on a wait and see kind of thing. I don't know. Like, at the rate they were going with all the products that they released, I don't know if this will do what I really want it to do, because it might just get drowned out in like all of the releases that come afterwards, and it being a quote unquote core set means that it's going to be probably less powerful.
I mean, we know it's going to be less powerful, but we also know, just based off the stuff they've shown us, that even with it being less powerful, it's going to contain staple cards that people are always looking for. Like, people always are looking for a 4-mana board wipe in white. People are always looking for a Glorious Anthem replacement that's at a better curve. People are always looking for mana dorks when they're building their decks. At the very least, if it's just for the Commander players who are buying this, they're getting a bunch of staples for their format here.
Honestly, I don't think that the Commander players will be buying this. Honestly, and that's
the thing that's terrifying.
Yeah, is that the Commander players won't buy this because there's like nothing for them. The card pool is so diluted. If there is something that they want, it's gonna be harder to get it. And so you have, like, they're gonna end up buying the single, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not gonna buy it. The people who play standard, like, competitively, won't buy it because they already have all the things they need. And so you have the people, like, people that will buy it, and the intended audience, I believe, the people who are trying to get into standard. And then you have the issue of not being attractive enough to get people to start playing standard.
Fair.
That's where I'm kind of, I'll have a fear of it not going well, because I don't know how good this set is going to be at getting people into standard. As much as like once you get, like, if we can convince people to start playing standard, the set's great. But you have to convince people to start playing standard first.
You know what would really help towards that? Do you remember years ago? I know it feels like from a bygone era at this point, but do you remember sample decks?
I do remember sample decks.
Biminem, do you remember sample decks?
Let me pull up a visual reminder for myself. It's ringing a bell when you say it.
So for those in the audience who might not remember these artifacts from a bygone age, sample decks were a fascinatingly strange thing that Wizards used to print out all the time. They were considered a loss leader for Wizards of the Coast. They were, whether or not they were an effective loss leader, I don't know. I don't have the numbers on that. But they were an amazing idea. So the idea of a sample deck was to have a 30-card deck that you could just get for free from your LGS. Wizards would send these things for free to your LGS. And they would have a sample game with you to teach you Magic the Gathering. The idea was you'd get either somebody who worked at the store or an experienced player, and they would grab one of these sample decks, sit down with you, and play this small, curated game of Magic. And then, if you were like, yeah, I liked that, they would go, cool. And they would hand you their half of the deck, and they'd say, combine these together. You have your first Magic deck. They were built to be generic enough within each other that you could combine 2 decks of the same color, 2 decks of different colors. It didn't matter. You kind of got the same kind of deck either way, no matter what you did. They always had some type of, like, iconic top end, right? This is why Shivan Dragon is 10 cents, because Shivan Dragon was printed as the top card of the red versions of these decks all the time. The Aggressive Mammoth, the one that gives all of your stuff trample, that was the top card for green, typically. And then I think for like blue, it was like an air elemental or something, I want to say. I don't remember.
It was air elemental.
Yeah, the idea was there was like some iconic top end that would make you feel like you were, playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically. Here's your Blue Eyes White Dragon card, kind of. And because you were playing with a 30-card version of the deck, the likelihood you would see that top card was pretty high. And while the games themselves with those sample decks were not super representative of how Magic would feel to play once you got like a streamlined deck list, it was still a good onboarding process. And Wizards discontinued it because everybody plays Commander now. Like, onboarding people into 60-card... I hope Foundations does better at bringing people in, because right now, people don't have a way to get into 60-card formats very easy. And Standard should be the premier 60-card format. Like, that's what its goal has been from a design standpoint from the beginning. It should be as easy as get people into Standard. As cards rotate, if they want to keep playing the cards they have that rotated, now they've got an onboard into Pioneer. As enough time passes, they could have had an onboard into Modern. But, then Modern got Horizon sets and fucked that up too. Jassa says, for me, paper Standard is just real expensive. So that's the thing about the Foundation set, though, is that it looks like it's trying to make this a lot more affordable. Like, willy-nilly handing out playsets of shit is already an admission of trying to make this more affordable for players. Also, Standard should not be as expensive as it is right now, because it is a rotating format where you don't get to use your cards in the format after a while. That's the other reason why I like the 5-year format for this specifically. But I don't know, we'll see what ends up happening with these things. It's not quite starter decks, and it's not quite a core set, but it looks like they're trying to be something in between those. And I'm kind of happy about that.
We will see.
Yeah, we will see. I am hopefully optimistic about it, but I've also really been wanting to play Standard, and this gives me a hopefully optimistic way to start Standard. There is technically one argument against all of this, and that is that we already have a product that is supposed to be the onboarding right now, and that's the Arena starting kits. Or I guess they're now just called starter kits, but for some reason they called them Arena starter kits for the longest time. And I don't know. I don't think I've ever been a fan of those particularly, because the decks never felt cohesive or on theme or anything that, makes Magic the Gathering Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't bought one of those starting kits in like...
Never bought a starter kit, so...
I bought one like 3 or 4 years ago when I was curious about what was in it. That's about it.
Which had a starting, mean those starter dual decks?
Yeah. It's not even really Dual Decks. Dual Decks was another separate product they discontinued.
Yeah, because the closest thing I bought to a starting product when I first started playing was the Polychronis and Sun Titan dual deck.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, I want to say it came out in the Theros block because Polychronis was introduced to the game in Theros. So it was like new product back in Theros, and I got it to get into things. I think I've still got that alt art foil Sun Titan that's in the front of the pack. I think I still got it around here somewhere.
I remember that one.
Yeah, the starter kits feel like the old 2-player starter sets that they used to make. Like, and I'm saying the word specifically that way because that's what the actual stuff was named. Before we had a 2-player starter set, the starter decks, and then we had the Magic Online starter disc. Those were the onboarding mechanisms for the game. The online starting disc is how I started playing Magic. That's how I got my my Elvish Champion, because he was given away as the add-on for getting that disc.
My first online game was Magic 2014. Man, I played that game a lot, and that's what really got me into playing Magic.
Mm-hmm.
I would play that game, and they had the mono green ramp where you just ramped into Eldrazi, but they didn't have the good Eldrazi. Now I realize it now.
You're just like, it feels good to ramp into Breaker of Armies.
It's like the best one they had. They had It That Betrays and Artisan of Kozilek.
I mean, those are good. They're just not Titans.
And then you had to play Ulamog's Crusher, Pathways of Ulamog. It was like it's the two good ones, right? And then you had all the rest because they were all bad.
Can I show you a product that, like, this is the kind of thing that they used to have for onboarding that was super nice that we just do not have anymore. So this is gonna look really strange and retro, but I'll throw this on screen for everybody here in a second after I show this to y'all. So this is the Magic the Gathering starter. This is what a starter deck was back then. It came with a VHS of how to play Magic and a starter deck, and there's that little branding, like I said, that has starter level written on it. And of course it came with a promo, a Thorn Elemental.
I remember
You know that would be a cool thing to get a hold of nowadays. One of those
little starter sets.
Yeah,
they're about, people are selling them for about $40 on eBay. They're very affordable right now.
The one that has the VHS.
Yes.
This is not good information.
This is not good information.
Are you interested in a VHS?
What if I sent you the Magic the Gathering 1999 gift box set link?
Yeah.
So that you have this good information.
I thought
it wasn't good.
Why did the way you word that make me think, what if we kissed underneath the night?
What if we played Magic the Gathering with the starter gift box set under the moonlight?
I don't understand you people. I'm gotta go.
This does mean I'll have to get one of those. Remember the TVs, the rear projection TVs that had the VCR player?
I have one
built into them.
I have,
like it was actually a part of the TV. Yeah, I was about to say, I think you have one.
Yeah, it's mine's either a VHS one or a DVD one. I don't know. I'll have to check.
Just buy one of those, just so you can.
Yeah, for $10.
Just for this.
Like, ooh, look at that thing.
Get one of those. Get one of the clear TVs where it was like see-through, but it was like red or blue.
Oh yeah, the ones that looked like they were a Macintosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Is this the thing we're gonna have to do?
This is
We're-
absolutely nothing we're gonna have to do.
So we're gonna have to get old starter decks. We're gonna have to get a TV to tell us how to play Magic the Gathering, and we're gonna have to set it up in a basement somewhere.
Will they say that damage goes on the stack? Please tell me it does. Please tell me they do.
Oh my god! Wait, no. I know what we do. We do this at a. We actually do this at a card shop. Like we set up a CRT.
Oh
pull out the starter stuff and go like, yeah, we're just trying to learn how to play this cool new game, Magic the Gathering.
We need to have one of those
Like
those-
the, like
Oh, the ones in
projector cart from
school?
school.
Yeah.
Yes, on a roller cart.
This
Oh.
is awful.
This is perfect.
This is awful, and
This
I'm here
is
for it.
Everything that I've ever wanted. If Magic the Gathering Foundations doesn't give me this exact experience, I am going to start a riot over at Wizards of the Coast.
There is some
Prepare your
really
pitchforks,
cool.
man.
There is some really cool see-through CTVs.
You're finding all of this.
Oh yeah, no, I'm half listening to y'all, half shopping for clear CTVs.
There is
Like,
straight up.
VHS.
Man, look at this old starter product that we used to get. This is demo game in a box or demo game in a pack
For 2 players.
for 2 players. It's what?
Great, I love this.
Oh dear.
This is amazing. This is
Not
what
the eBay
Richard
listing.
Garfield intended.
I'm playing on the sidewalk on the concrete.
Oh man, that TV looks like it's held together with nothing but tape.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no,
That's amazing.
there's some good ones, and there's some, yeah.
That TV's playing Tarzan. That's why it's $180. Oh. I feel like eBay is not the place to look for these. I feel like Goodwill's the place to look for these.
Yeah. You did say Saki's been getting into small circuitry repair.
True. She actually just came over to me to show me that my copy of Pokemon Blue has been repaired. Literally 3 minutes ago.
Yeah. Oh, that one I heard.
What's up?
Nothing.
Oh, I see. You think you're cute.
Yeah. You can't hear me anyway, so got it. It's all a strat.
My God. I wonder if eBay is the best place to find these old starter decks, or if it would be better to look on like Facebook Marketplace.
I'm not a shopper, so I'm gonna leave that to the other people.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find this thing. Wait, is that person selling a Game Boy Advance SP for $30?
Something's wrong.
Ain't no way.
Hold on, we got off track.
Ain't no way.
Hold on, we got off track.
No,
Hold on.
no, we are on track. This is where we are.
Hold on, wait a minute. I signed up for Magic the Gathering.
No, we're exactly where we need to be right now. This is
Oh, no.
perfect.
Oh no.
Hold on, now I need to look up not starter duck, starter deck.
Starter deck.
Starter duck. Oversized Black Lotus for $100. I don't even know where an oversized Black Lotus came from. So you-
It was is it the oversized or is it the you have to assemble the 9 pieces?
it says oversized. It's one piece.
I don't know then. Precise.
Shasta says you didn't sign up for MTG. You signed up for ADHD.
Oh, nice. I
Scry
already got-
magazine.
Can I return this new product? I already got ADHD.
No.
Oh, unfortunate.
This product is not only defective, but you're stuck with it. Congratulations, Parenthood.
You know, Gail, it's like when you get a dupe in a gacha game, and it auto converts it to the in-game currency.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. Look, it's like see in my case it's what you get when you have like the max amount of copies you can have. So instead of like auto converting into a thing that gives you like a bonus to the character, it auto converts into the thing that just gives you another pull. That's
So you
Or-
just pull again, but then you get more ADHD.
Or it can be, if we're on the topic of Magic the Gathering, it can be like getting duplicates on Arena, where you get nothing.
oh no, or you can do, or it's opening a aftermath booster where you get 3 of the same card that's all ADHD though.
You know, come to think of it. Just a quick thing. Why do cards turn to dust in Hearthstone, making them incredibly useful for conversion and other things? But when you get too many of the same card on Arena, it's like it doesn't do anything for you. It's just there. That
Why
feels
would
stupid.
they make things easier for you?
That feels stupid. It should convert to a wild card.
It should.
Like, that would make sense. But no. It's not doing that. It's horrible. Everything about Magic Arena makes me upset. I hate it.
I might have to build this stupid rat snail deck.
Oh, the Grixis deck?
Yeah.
Yeah? I mean, it's just
opened
a fling deck, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But that's the
Perfect.
I need a lot of rats and a lot of and a lot of ways to double something's power, and then I fling it at people.
Doesn't it? It gets 1/1 counters specifically, right?
Yeah, whenever a rat enters.
Well, that's super easy. Vren is a card.
Who?
Vren, the Dimir Rat Commander.
The new one with Ward.
Oh, yeah. I don't know anything about Bloomberg. I'm gonna be real.
So Vren says anytime one of your opponent's cards dies, or anytime one of your opponent's creatures dies, exile it instead, and you make a rat
Oh,
at the
the
end of the turn for
Kalidas?
each one.
It's a Kalidas, but for rats.
Yeah! And the rats themselves get 1/1 for every other rat on the board.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna need that. Let me get that.
He's broken. Fleshbag Marauder and him are best buds.
All right, it's time for me to start building a deck. Okay, you can continue on your ADHD. I have my.
Oh,
ADHD.
now that you have your ADHD thing, now it's okay that we had ours.
Yes.
Okay, I understand now. I understand. It was never that it was the wrong thing to do. It was always that you weren't included.
Exactly. Look. It's always wrong thing to do if I'm not included. Think about it. Let's just put it that way.
I see. I understand now.
Mossfield it is.
Jessa says Vren go burr. He does. He definitely does go burr. He's a very, very powerful card. That said, Biminem, how is your CRT adventure going?
I found several good results.
Oh my God.
See, this is the if there's one thing that Foundations has given us, even before we've gotten any real concrete information on what it's bringing to the game, it brought us down this rabbit hole, and that's worth whatever amount of money I will unsolicitedly spend on it. For it says just add all the legendary rats. I built Vren with no rats. I built him with not a single rat inside. I let him spawn all the rats on his own. That said, we are creeping up on that hour-and-a-half mark. So, do we have any final thoughts on this whole everything that we've been talking about, except for the last 10 minutes?
Besides it, ever since the CRT adventure.
Ever since the CRT adventures.
I hope that I want people to play standard. I want to be able to play standard. I started playing standard. I want to be able to continue playing standard. Standard was my preferred format before it went to shit, and I wanted to go back. That's all I got.
What about you, Bimnum?
I think anything where the cards you own stop working in the future feels bad. And so it's an uphill battle that they'll have to fix. Like make it a 5-year legal set and make the cards very cheap and affordable to buy is definitely a step in the right direction. But that doesn't get over the psychic damage. The players just, it doesn't matter if it's $2. People will just go, oh, this expires at a point that bad, and then they just don't touch it. So I'd like to see it go off. I'd like to see it happen. I know if it's not that bad of a cost, so I'll be more than happy to do it. But I just speak from my own experience, cards expiring feels bad.
Okay, what if I told you that the top deck currently in Standard is Bristly Bill?
He's gone.
He's gone.
Are there any starter tournaments local to us?
The strongest deck in the format right now uses Bristly Bill, Sheoldred the Apocalypse, and Innkeeper's Talent to just make dumb happen.
Yeah, Innkeeper's Talent is one of my favorite cards to come out of Bloombrew.
Yup.
But Sheoldred the Apocalypse does not sound fun to purchase.
It just doesn't sound fun in general.
So just don't purchase her.
I cannot wait for it to rotate.
I hope her price goes down.
I also hope her price goes down.
Like
I love my Bristlet Bill deck, though. I really do.
Like I am speaking as somebody who owns 7 Sheoldred the Apocalypse. I want her to be cheap now. Every one of these was either luckily grabbed from a pack, gifted to me, or really hurt to buy.
Yep.
Ugh. But that said, thank you all for coming out today. I know that we went on quite the adventure during the last 10 minutes of this, and that adventure is going to continue later. Not on the next episode, hopefully, maybe. We'll see. But thank you for coming out, Bimnum. Thank you for coming out, Gale. And thank you, everybody who came in to watch and give their commentary on how things are going. That all said, we will see you all, hopefully, next week on Tuesday as well. And I will see you all in tomorrow's video, where I'll be talking about, well, I'm not going to tell you what Commander it's going to be. You'll have to find out tomorrow.